All right, welcome to the Explainer. Today, we are diving deep into something that's super critical, but, often kind of misunderstood in CNC machining, the tool holder. Think of it as the handshake between your machine and your cutting tool. And trust me, getting this one thing right can change absolutely everything. So let's get into it. Okay, I know, that sounds a little dramatic, right? But there's a really good reason we're starting with this. Choosing the wrong tool holder, man, it can lead to all sorts of problems. Bad accuracy, terrible tool life, even some really catastrophic failures. So the whole point of this explainer is to make sure you've got the basics down so you can get it right. So, first things first, what exactly is a tool holder? Before we can start comparing all the different types out there, we've really got to understand the basic anatomy that every single one of them shares. At its heart, this is its one and only job. The tool holder is the ultimate middleman. It's got to securely grip that cutting tool on one end and then perfectly mate with the machine's super high-speed spindle on the other. It sounds simple, but the level of precision engineering that's required to do that job well is just incredible. Pretty much every holder you'll ever see breaks down into these three main parts. First, you've got the taper. That's the cone shape that seats right inside the spindle. Then there's the flange, which is that little collar that the machine's robotic arm grabs onto when it's changing tools. And finally, you've got the collet pocket. That's the business end, where the actual cutting tool gets held. Simple enough, right? But believe me, how these parts are designed makes all the difference in the world. Okay, so now we know the parts. Let's talk about how the holder actually connects to the most important part of the entire machine, the spindle. And I just love this analogy. A good, firm handshake feels stable, confident. A weak, limp fish handshake? Well, not so much. It is exactly the same with tool holders. The quality of this connection, this handshake, is what determines your rigidity, your accuracy, and even how fast you can push your machine. So this slide really shows a huge difference in design philosophy. Over on the left, you've got your steep taper styles, like CAT or BT. They've been the standard for decades, and they only make contact along that cone-shaped taper. But on the right, you have a newer style, HSK, which makes contact in two places, on the taper and on the flat face of the spindle. We call this dual contact. So why does that second point of contact matter so much? Well, it's because it creates a connection that is just way more stable and way more rigid. Think of it like the difference between a table with 3 legs and one with 4. It just doesn't wobble. And that stability translates directly into better accuracy and a much more reliable connection, especially at really high speeds. Okay, so we've got the anatomy down, we know the connection types. Now let's get into the specific holders you're probably going to find in just about any machine shop. These are the versatile, everyday workhorses. And we have to start with the most basic one of all, the side lock holder. You might also know it as an end mill holder. It's been around forever, and its design is, well, brutally simple. This table really tells the whole story. You've got a set screw that just pushes the tool against one side of the holder. Now, the big pro here is that it is fantastic at preventing the tool from pulling out during a really heavy cut. But the huge con? All that off-center pressure creates runout, a little wobble as the tool spins, and that is terrible for accuracy, and it just chews up your tools. Yep, this pretty much sums it up perfectly. You use a side lock holder when your only goal is to hog out a ton of material, and your number one priority is making sure that tool stays put, even if you have to sacrifice a little precision to do it. Next up, we've got probably the most common and versatile holder in the entire world, the Collet holder. Seriously, if you've ever set foot in a machine shop, you have seen hundreds of these things. Its superpower is its versatility. You buy one holder, and then you can get dozens of different size collets that'll hold just about any tool you can imagine. And unlike that side lock, the collet applies even pressure all the way around the tool, which is way better for accuracy. The trade-off? You do lose a little bit of rigidity, and you have to be super careful about keeping everything clean, because just one tiny chip of metal can throw off your accuracy enough to scrap a really expensive part. So what if you like the versatility of a collet system, but you just need more muscle, more oomph for roughing? Well, that brings us to our third workhorse, the milling chuck. Honestly, you can just think of a milling chuck as an collet that's been hitting the gym. It's designed from the ground up to transmit a lot more torque and give you much better rigidity. It's a fantastic step up for more aggressive roughing, but you still have to be a little careful. In a really, really heavy cut, it's still possible for that tool to pull out. So, those 3 holders, they're going to cover, maybe 80% of the jobs you'll ever do. But what about that other 20%? What about when you need the absolute best accuracy, the highest speeds, and the most aggressive cuts possible? Well, that's when you enter the world of high-performance holders. And the first one we're going to look at here is a true marvel of material science, the shrink fit holder. There are no moving parts, no collets, no screws, nothing. The way this thing works is just fascinating. You use this special machine to heat up the end of the holder, which makes the metal expand by just a few microns. You slide the cool tool in, let the holder cool down, and the metal contracts around it, creating this incredibly powerful and perfectly centered grip. This gives you amazing accuracy and a really slim profile. And that skinny body isn't just for looks. It lets you reach deep into parts without the holder crashing into things, which is an absolute lifesaver in complex 5-axis work. The only real downside is that, yeah, you need that expensive heating machine to make it work. And finally, we've arrived at the top of the food chain, the hydraulic holder. This is where you get the best of everything, all rolled into one package. That internal hydraulic fluid acts as a natural vibration dampener, which is amazing for your surface finish and your tool life. And that dampening is not a small thing. It can be the difference between a mirror-like finish right off the machine and one that needs hours of manual polishing. And with new features like SafeLock, which uses grooves on the tool and in the holder, tool pullout becomes physically impossible. It really is the ultimate performance package. Okay, whew! We have covered a ton of ground, from the basic anatomy all the way to the highest performance options out there. So let's bring it all together. How do you actually choose the right one for your job? This right here, this is your big takeaway. This is the cheat sheet. You can see all the trade-offs laid out pretty clearly. Need to remove a lot of metal cheaply and you don't care about a perfect finish? You grab a side lock. Need maximum versatility for all sorts of different jobs? The Collet is your best friend. But for the absolute best precision on a critical part, yeah, you're looking at shrink fit or hydraulic. Every single holder has its place. And that leaves us with one final thought. We've gone from a simple set screw to these incredible dual contact hydraulically dampened systems that are just masterpieces of engineering. As the demands of manufacturing keep getting crazier, you've just got to wonder, what's next for this critical unsung hero of the machine shop? Thanks for watching.